Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Midwest Buzz podcast. I'm Olivia.
And I'm JC. Welcome back, friends.
And today we're going to talk about how JC doesn't like her hair. Just kidding. That's not today's episode, but we are going to address it because she was just telling me before we started. And she's like, no, I'll talk about it on the podcast.
Wait, let me talk about it on the podcast. You sent me a reel the other day that was like when best friends have a podcast. You're like, I'm going to
yeah, it's like save
for
it
the
for
podcast. No, I was like, so on Sunday I had my hair down and Elsa made the comment, oh, this is the first time I've seen you with your hair down when it was dark. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I haven't really wore it down a lot. And I was like, I just don't love it. Like, I don't know. I think I was asking Cole, I was like, do you think if I would have just done an all over color, like all like brown, it would have been better? I don't know.
I think that would have been a stark change.
Yeah. Because he was like, oh, I love it. It looks so good. Mm-hmm. I also think he's just really nice. And
well, he probably does love it. I mean, it does look good. It just is different.
I don't know. I just keep seeing, and this is a poor comparison because obviously I don't have extensions in right now.
Right.
But I keep seeing like my 1 year ago stuff on Time Hop. Yeah. And it's like I was freshly blonde. I had my extensions in. And I was like, nope, that's what I'm supposed to be.
Well, if that's what you want to be,
I feel like I'm having an identity crisis with the dark hair.
I will say it looks good. I would say ask Cole like, okay, this looks good. I'll give you that. But do you like the blonde better? Yeah. That's always what I have to do to Adam. It's like, sure, you think this looks great. You think I look good regardless. But do you like that other thing better?
Yeah, he said that. And not that I really like ultimately like, yes, I appreciate his opinion,
like,
but it doesn't
do what I like.
Overly like control my choice making.
As it should.
But
shouldn't.
He was like, I think that he goes, now seeing you dark, he's like, I think it looks really good. Mm-hmm. But he goes, I do think that you are like a blonde.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I know.
Does he prefer blondes?
No, he was the one that was like always being like, you should try dark. I bet it would be really pretty.
Okay. Interesting.
Because I did some like TikTok filter one time and he was like, you look really good as a brunette. And I was like, thanks.
Nice.
And then I was like, oh, I'll do it in real life.
I will say when I walked into Charisma on Saturday, I was like, is JC here yet? You had backed me with your hair in a ponytail and it just looked dark because you had been sweating or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was fresh out of hot yoga.
But I was like, well, that's Chelsea. So, yeah. It's JC.
Good times. Good times. Anything fun life updates going on?
No, not really. Well, I'm weaning Grant, but that's not really fun. That's actually been harder than I thought it would be because he's been such a bad nurser recently that he's like basically getting nothing every time he nurses during the day.
Yeah.
That I thought it would be pretty easy, but he does seem to be a little more clingy and like whiny.
Like he wants that like connection part of it. Yeah.
So, but he's gotten better. The first few days were just like unexpected. But he still nurses at night and in the morning and unfortunately still in the middle of the night, which I feel like that one is happening because he's not getting enough calories during the day. So I just need to up his daytime calories. But yeah, that's currently what we're going through.
Fun times. Love this weather we're having. But you guys, there is a weed already growing in my landscaping or lack of landscaping. It's fresh dirt waiting for landscaping.
Right.
And I was like, and it was there in February. I'm like, how are weeds growing in February in South Dakota?
Weeds are resilient.
Yeah. And my grass is starting to get green.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Wild.
It's great.
I'm not mad about it.
An early spring. We talked about this in the last episode.
I know.
Will it last? I don't know. Are we about to get a ferocious winter storm?
We did wake up with a little bit of like dusting of snow. But I was, again, my Time Hop with my beautiful long blonde hair. I was standing doing photos at a wedding like a year ago today or a few days ago. And the snow was like taller than me in some spots, like where we were shooting.
Oh, wow.
The drifts were so bad. And I was like,
at least we don't have that.
I'm so thankful we don't have those.
Yeah.
But
crazy.
Yes. Still going hard on 75 hard. Soft claps. I've been doing, although I was almost injured and wasn't able to commit to working out. I literally dropped a weight on my foot. It's still really gnarly, but it doesn't hurt. But the bruise is like gross.
Yeah.
I was like, who does that?
Happens. That's called your dedicated gym rat.
I know, right? It was a 5-pound weight.
Still.
It was a rubber hand weight, you guys.
Well, if you drop your phone on your toe, it could bruise.
Can you imagine if you would drop like think about those guys. Oh, you see so many videos. There was this girl who was like deadlifting or something, and her whole arm just like came out. Oh, it was so gross.
Oh, gross.
I know. I don't understand how people do that. I pick up like a 25-pound weight to do our lawnmowers, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a lot of weight.
I don't do any weight that could injure me.
No. I mean, but if you dropped a 25-pound weight on your toe,
Ouch. Yeah, no, your foot would
you'd
be
be
broken.
losing a toe.
You could injure, like, have a Brooke situation with your foot.
Yeah. That'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
I don't want surgery.
No.
But, yeah.
Any updates on Love is Blind? You still watching that?
Oh, so yes, I finished all the episodes that are out, which I think when our current episode comes out, more Love is Blind episodes will be out. Because right now, 1 through 11 has been released.
Okay.
On March 6th, they're bringing out like more episodes. I think there's only like 2 left. There's the weddings and then there's the reunion.
Okay.
So just waiting for those.
So nothing juicy has happened? Did he meet the girl that he was choosing between?
Yeah, Jimmy met her, Jess, thank you. I don't really think there was anything crazy that happened. They sat and talked for a while.
But she probably realized she dodged a bullet.
Yeah, but she acted like she was so attracted to him. Oh. And I get that like some people find certain people attractive and that not everyone is my type.
Right.
But I just can't find him attractive.
Yeah.
I said something really mean when I was watching it, and Cole was like, JC, he's like, you don't even know these people. What is wrong? And I was like, I just want to finish punching in Jimmy's teeth. And he's like, okay. But like his teeth, I don't know.
Do some boxing classes.
I just was like, maybe I shouldn't watch things that make me this mad.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm like, I just don't understand how people can be so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But it is reality TV. That's the point of it, I guess. On TikTok last night, this girl who was leaking information for the Minneapolis season is next. And she was like, Minneapolis is a big town, but it's also small town vibes. Like, we know people. And she's like, the cast has been being leaked for Love is Blind in Minneapolis. And she's like, and I know one of the guys, and he's a dirtbag. And like, he had no intention of going on there for marriage. He had no intention of any of this. Like, and I was like, ooh.
I feel like that's a lot of people that just go on there for fame.
Yeah.
Like, I always think about the season that had Shake.
Oh, yeah.
He was so bad.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He's like,
or
can I hold you on my shoulders if we play chicken in the pool?
I forgot about that. I don't know, Shake. Can you hold a woman?
Yeah. How big are you?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. But yeah, no, today's actual episode is something like we've been saying for the last couple weeks. We're going to do something
more serious,
deeper and more serious than our Never Have I Ever games.
Yes.
But Olivia and I thought it would be really fun to share our testimonies with you guys.
Yes. We thought we'd use this platform, however big or small that it is, and just talk about what's most important to us in life.
Yes. Which I think will be fun. Because I actually don't know. I feel like we've talked about stuff, but I don't know if I actually know. I don't know if I actually heard your story type thing.
Yeah.
But, so I think it'll be good.
Yeah. So how do we want to do it?
Do you want to go first or do you want me to?
Yeah, mine might be shorter. This is, so recently Adam and I joined our church, and one of the things that we did before joining was we met with the pastors and like gave them our testimonies or whatever. And I was like, I'll go first because mine's like boring and short. But I used to always think that my testimony was boring because I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a pastor most of my life. Like, I just knew about Jesus essentially from, a very young age. And I never really had like a crazy go away from Jesus, come back to Jesus moment or anything. So I was like, that's so boring. But honestly, it's just a testimony of how good God has been on my life.
Yeah.
And how blessed I am. But there are more details than that. So I'll give a little bit. But like I said, I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a pastor, or at least in ministry, for most of my life. Basically, when we moved here was the only time since I've been alive that he wasn't in ministry. And even for a little bit, he worked for a church. So, and then when I was 12, we were living in Virginia at the time. And that's when I realized that, oh, just because my parents are Christians doesn't mean that I'm actually saved. And so I got baptized when I was 12 at my uncle's church, which at the time was the church we were going to. So it's pretty special because I can still go back to where I got baptized.
Did he baptize you?
My dad actually baptized me. But yes, I think I got baptized at the same time as one of my childhood friends and my cousin Mark.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And then pretty much just, coasted by in my faith. I wouldn't say there was anything like astronomical that tested my faith when I was young. We moved to Texas, and when I was in like junior high and high school in Texas, and that's probably like when I like started making my faith my own, and it wasn't just like I go to church because my parents go to church or all that kind of stuff. But those high school years of like liking boys or being compared to other girls or just like all this kind of stuff. And then you have friends who go to public school and they're, their parents have different rules and they have all this kind of stuff. They're dating, whatever. I wasn't allowed to date. I didn't have my own cell phone, like all this kind of stuff. But I still was living with my parents. So I feel like that kept me really grounded. But it also was like, thought that I was like on mission trying to be the good influence to my friends who, whose parents were divorced or not saved or, didn't really go to church. And so I'd invite them to church, all that kind of stuff. But then, so fast forward, we moved to Massachusetts, which I hated. I'd say the closest I've ever come to being depressed was when we lived in Massachusetts.
Oh no.
It was just like, I really liked Texas. And
That's fair.
And it was my senior year when we moved away. So I was sad about that. But then Massachusetts, where we lived, was like, well, first of all, it's cold there. So coming from Texas, didn't love that.
You're mixing seasonal depression with teenage hormones.
Yeah, not good. We were living like in a secluded place. No one really my age. Like, I don't know. There was great people there. There's always great people in situations where you live and you find the best in it. But I did get the opportunity to move away for a year, and I moved to Pennsylvania and I lived with Mariah.
Oh yeah.
And she was working for her uncle and getting her flight hours and or like taking flight lessons, and I nannied my nephew Colton.
Oh yeah.
So he was just itty bitty baby. And so I did that for $50 a week, which was helping my brother and sister-in-law out. Like,
did that even pay your rent?
Well, the great thing is we were living in her uncle's what do you call them? Not condo, but it's like looks like a house when you're on the outside of it, but it's basically like
house.
Townhome.
Oh, I'm like, I don't know.
It's like a townhome.
Okay.
And he wasn't charging us rent because that was like his deal with Mariah.
Okay, because she was like working with him. Okay. I was gonna say that wouldn't pay a lot of bills.
It didn't. Mariah was my sugar daddy. That's what we joke. She was the husband, I was the wife.
Shout out to Mariah for getting Olivia through this time of her life.
Yeah, we became really good thrift shoppers. We lived on pasta. There was a time that my cousin Anna also moved there and she's obviously like a nurse and made more money, so she would come and cook for us sometimes.
Please bring us food.
Yeah, no, it was good times, but it was also me living on my own away from my parents, like not being, obviously I was never really forced to go to church, but it's just like, it's Sunday, we're going to church, right? And like it was just happening, and it was like we had to find our own church and decide like, okay, what is the truth? Is this church preaching the Bible, like or getting involved in community and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of challenging, I think, for both me and Mariah, because it was like just easier to not go, easier to like just, we had each other, and like our family would come visit, and we had friends back home, so it's like, oh, do we need friends? We're only going to be here for a little bit of time, all that kind of stuff. Right.
I also think it's so easy in like the digital age where it's like, oh, I'll just go watch it online from like my home church or whatever. Like I've obviously never left Brown County, so I don't even know what it would be like to have to like go and like find a new community. Yeah, no, it's hard. And that was always the worst part about moving. When you're a little kid, you make friends so easy. Yeah. But the older you get, like when we moved to Texas, it took me a long time to make friends. And so then when we moved to Massachusetts, I think that's why that was so hard. And I was just like, I'm so close to graduating, and I'm either going to go to college or do something else. I'm just not going to make friends. Yeah.
And so I was a little bit bitter in my time in Massachusetts, which is not good. But I think my time in Pennsylvania helped me realize, like, okay, community is important and having a church family is important. God calls us to it in his word. And so while I was living there, I applied to work at Sky Ranch, which is a Christian youth camp in Texas. And I worked there for the summer of 2015. Oh, fun. And that was a huge growing experience because I was on my own. Emma actually worked at Sky Ranch, but she wasn't like overnight working or whatever, and she wasn't there the whole summer, and she got married and went on her honeymoon and all that kind of stuff. Anyways,
how dare her?
Yeah, how dare you? No, but it was just really good because I had to meet people who, you know, otherwise I would have never known, and just like from all different walks of life. Most of them were in college, and I had skipped out on college. I was actually one of the oldest ones working there, who for first year, like there would be seniors.
Oh, like
but they had
kids
worked
would
there
start
like,
younger.
Yeah, so like most of the time it's like first year counselors were college freshmen, and I was 21 at the time.
Gotcha.
So, but anyways, that was a huge growth thing for me. I became more confident, and just like understood the word more because you're teaching it to little girls every week.
I was gonna say, I feel like when you actually have to like practice what you preach, or like preach what you practice, like you grow a lot in it, because you're like, oh, if I'm gonna be teaching someone something, like, I should probably know what I'm talking about, and not just like, oh, well, I think this is how it is, like, yeah.
And there's so much like little girls and like just trying not to say anything negative about your body and like all this kind of stuff, and it was just a really good growing time. And I have like the girls that I was counselors with, I still talk to some of them, and like it's just really cool.
That's fun.
Most of them are married and have kids, or like just doing cool things. And anyways, so that was a good growth season. And then my dad lost his job in Massachusetts, and they were going to be moving to South Dakota, and I was like, okay, I'm not going. First of all, this is like calling myself out, but I was like, oh, South Dakota, at least it'll be warmer. I don't know why I thought, because
where did you think South Dakota was?
I don't know. I think I was confused. That's all. But anyways, I got over that pretty quickly. I was like, wait a second, let me just look up a map. Oh wait, it's worse. So anyways, I was like, I'm not gonna move there. I'll move to Lynchburg and live with Mariah again, and just like stay in Virginia. And my mom was like, I just really feel like we're moving to South Dakota for you, and that it's going to be like your place, and I think you should come with us.
Really?
Like, yeah. And then Lindy was like, please don't make me be the only one, because she was going to be the only one at home. The boys were in college in Massachusetts, so they weren't moving. So I was like, okay, I'll come and I'll help you guys get settled, and if after a few months like I still want to move to Virginia, then I'll move to Virginia. Well, I moved here, and the job that my dad had moved here for, they ended up wanting to hire me as like their social media person, and like a bunch of other random jobs that I did for them. And it was really fun, good work environment, coworkers, a little bit of a party crowd, some of them. And so I was a DD a lot, and again felt like, oh, this can be part of my testimony, like I can show the love of Jesus to them, whatever. But here's the thing about Aberdeen is very much, it's not a Bible belt, but everyone will say that they are Christians and that they go to church and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, you have a lot of people that say they are Christians.
Yes. So there was a lot of that, of like coworkers that would be partying hard on the weekends, getting drunk and stuff, and then I would see them at church on Sunday, and I was like, I feel like we should talk. Just figure out, I mean, not that like, I mean, technically getting drunk is a sin, but I'm not gonna judge people because I don't know their walk with Jesus and like all that kind of stuff. But
I think it's hard not to sometimes judge if they are saying they're a Christian. Like if you say you're not a Christian, I'm not going to hold you to any standards.
No,
I'm not. But if you say you're a Christian, I probably am going to. And when I start talking about mine, I'll be like, I'll call it out. I'm the first to say, like, I lived my life not great for quite a while. Like, but yeah, you do. You get held to a different standard.
Yeah. So anyways, I was doing that a lot on weekends. I wasn't drinking or anything. Like I said, I was being the DD, but I would just kind of like, I wasn't really growing my faith or looking, you know, whatever. And I was kind of feel that darkness of like, I don't know if you've ever felt this, if you've been like at a bar or whatever. I just feel like sometimes like it's heavy.
Oh, it's
and it
very
feels like
heavy.
Gross. And it's probably just like the darkness around, you know, whatever. So I kind of stepped away from that. And kind of found some church friends or got involved in a church group. And I had met Adam already at the Y. And then I saw that he was coming to church, and I was like, oh, okay. So he's, you know, at least.
Cute boy at the gym. That's at church.
I was like, he's in the right direction, you know. And then one day Lindy invited him to play volleyball with us and some people from church. And then after that, he got my Snapchat, and then it was just, we were talking, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, fast forward, Adam and I are married.
No.
And I think Adam and I have grown in our faith a lot individually before we got married, and then as a couple, especially like Adam, I've seen so much growth in him as a spiritual leader and everything. But I will say the time that I have felt God the closest and my faith was tested the most was when we had our first miscarriage, because we had been trying to get pregnant for a year, and then we got pregnant right at the mark where the doctors are like, otherwise they would have asked about it. And we were just so excited. And so for that to be taken away, plus 3 of my friends had just like announced that they were pregnant. We're all pregnant. So it was like, oh, we're all going to be pregnant together. And then we found out there was no heartbeat and the pregnancy wasn't viable anymore. So that just felt like one of those moments where you're like, why, God, why could it not just be, you know? But I also felt such a peace and just like God's presence and prayers from like family, friends, and just other Christians. Like you can feel it so much. And I just think that I really grew to just trust God in his timing, his goodness. Like people always say God's timing is best, but no, it's not just like a saying that people say. It's so true. And sometimes you don't know it until you experience it.
Once you're like on the other side. Like when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel like it.
No, it felt, you know, sad and crappy. And but also I just like, even during like the sadness and the sorrow and the miscarriage, like the pain of that or whatever, I still felt a peace. And now we have Grant, and I just like can't imagine not having Grant. And it's been really good. And now we're in this great church that I feel like really test is not the right word, but convicts me. Like with different sermons, I feel like we haven't really been at a church where I felt like convicted or like I'm thinking deeper, you know, like it challenges
like it's
you,
pushing you for like growth and like to learn more.
So we're very excited about that. We're happy with our church family.
That's awesome.
So like I said, I feel like my testimony is kind of boring. I feel like it's more been in the last years that I've had like extreme growth. I think that your story probably resonates with a lot of like, if you would call it like second generation Christians, where like your parents were saved. You didn't have a radical, like God pulled you out of the sewer dumps of like a crack house. Like, which I feel like I used to think,
which is a blessing to you that your parents did like.
I'm so thankful for my parents and the way that they raised me. And also they weren't like, you sometimes hear those like preacher kids go crazy because their parents were so strict or so oppressive in this. It was just kind of like, you know, I don't know. They were really good about explaining things and why like they believed what they believed.
This isn't like our rules. Like, we like serve a higher power. And this is what he calls us to be. And there were rules like no dating or whatever, no cell phones and all that kind of stuff that while you're under their roof. But they explained everything so well that it was like, you weren't like, oh, stupid rule. You just don't want me to date because you don't want me to have fun. Wait, you didn't have a cell phone at all?
I did when I turned 16.
Oh, okay. I got mine when I was 14. I feel like in South Dakota, not everyone. I mean, a lot of kids get phones very young. But in South Dakota, it's a good old like, oh, you have a driver's license. It's safe for you to have a phone. That makes sense. No, I think that I think mine has similarities in like, so like I obviously was also raised in I always say Christian. I always remember like going to church, and so when I was little, I grew up in like a Methodist church, and our pastor used to always say, just because you sit in a garage doesn't make you a car. And just because you come to church on Sunday doesn't make you a Christian. And I always would kind of think about that. And like, obviously, like little, like we went to church every Sunday. We prayed, you know, like my like dad grew up Lutheran. My mom grew up Lutheran. Like
very
just
typical
like
for Midwest.
Yeah. And like as I got older, my mom got saved when I was really young. And I don't even remember it because I was little.
Yeah.
And I just grew up with this like, oh, like I'm a Christian. Like my mom and dad are Christians. And I remember always going to like VBS as a little kid, and literally like they're always like, you know, telling you how you need to accept Jesus into your heart and all this stuff. And I just remember like kudos to the Methodist Church for putting a healthy fear of hell in my heart, because I would leave like every summer being like, I'm so afraid to go to hell. Like I would legitimately be so worried that I was going to hell.
Horrible. Yeah.
And so like every summer I'd be like, Jesus, please come into my heart.
Yeah.
Because I was just so like freaked out about it. But I didn't ever really like fully understand it. Like when you tell a 6-year-old like you're going to hell because of your sins, I'd be like, yeah, I don't want that. Like,
like no, please.
And so I, again, just feel like I kind of grew up in a Christian home. And when I was probably like, I don't know, like 12, we started going to like a more like Baptist, like definitely like preached from the Bible, like altar calls every Sunday type thing. And in that time when I was like 14, my dad actually got saved.
Oh, awesome.
And it was such like like I'm very close with my dad, and it was such a like shattering moment for me to be like, what do you mean you got saved? Like, you were Christian. Like, why do you need to get saved? And he kind of like was really good about, obviously he was like probably in his 40s. Like he grew up going to church his entire life, and in his 40s realized like, I'm not saved. Like I've been just living by this religious rule book of, you know, you be a good person, you pray with your kids at night, you go to church on Sunday. And so when my dad like kind of sat down with the family and was like, hey, like I got saved, I'm going to get baptized. That was like very crazy to me. Like I just was like, what? Like I was like, if you weren't saved, I'm definitely not saved. And so I remember just like that feeling kind of sinking in like over the next couple, probably like weeks, and like in church on Sunday, like just like powerful salvation messages being preached. And I remember just like one night, just like not even being able to sleep, just like laying in bed, like I'm not saved. And I remember just like going into my mom and dad's bedroom and being like, can you guys please pray with me? Like I just need to know, like have confidence in my salvation. And basically they like read the Bible with me and like prayed with me, and that's when I got saved. I got baptized. I think Drew and I guess I don't, this is kind of bad, I think Drew and I got baptized the same night. He would remember everything. I swear I have like short-term memory loss. Like I do not remember stuff like that. Anyway, so like again, still living in the same Christian home, like but I do feel like I had like a shift of like, okay, like I have a personal relationship with Jesus. And just trying to like, you know, like read my Bible and do things like, obviously, you know, like we did Bible time as a family, still went to church. But again, just like very baby Christian. Just like, oh, like I do all this because my family does this. And when I got married at 19, that was like first, like I never really left. Like I didn't like move out of the house. I didn't go to college. I like basically started doing photography right after I graduated, was at home for another year, got married. And I kind of had this like perception that obviously they always say like the man is supposed to be the head of the household and he's the spiritual leader. And I think I just threw that all on him. Like if you're not going to pray, I'm not going to pray. If you're not going to be like, let's read our Bible, I didn't read my Bible. And I just completely like, and looking back, like that was a really terrible thing to place on him, because he was also very young and immature, and looking back, maybe like just not a good Christian man at all. But you know, to each their own. But yeah, so just kind of placed so much on him, and like thinking that, oh, like I remember being like laying in bed on a Sunday morning and him being like, no, wait, like, want to go like fishing or like, I don't know, like we just like, we still would go to church, but like not very religiously. Like we didn't pray. Like there was no like Jesus is the head of our relationship.
Right.
And I feel like my entire life just like went into such a terrible place. And again, I can't throw this on anyone. This is my own fault. Like I let this happen. But yeah, just like kind of went into that like party phase of my life. Like I still obviously had faith in Jesus, but I was just like not really being like, I would be convicted about stuff, but I just like was like, oh, like it's fine. Like my husband wants to do this.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the leader, so it must be fine. And I think I just like, which is such a cop out, but I just let myself kind of think that that was okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, just kind of, I mean, I would still like, you know, like listen to, like I still would like go to church. I was in a Bible study. I just never really felt much growth. Yeah. I just kind of was like, oh, like I enjoy doing all these things. Like I enjoy going to church. I enjoy reading my Bible, but I just wasn't growing. And then obviously fast forward way too many years, when trials would come, like obviously when someone's cheating on you, it's not a great feeling.
Right.
And when we ultimately like kind of like at the very end, like I was like, no, like I want to fix this. I want like God loves marriage. Like God wants us to stay together. Like God does not want divorce.
Right.
And I feel like in that like 4-month time frame of when it was like, hey, I want a divorce to like when the papers were served, like I just like poured my heart to God, like just like always in the word. Like I was doing counseling with your pastor, like just like I wanted it to so desperately work. And I just realized like how far my life had fallen from like where like I thought I would be and like what I wanted. And I was like, why am I living this way? And like that was the time like you and I started doing that Bible study together.
I was gonna say you were going through the divorce stuff. I was going through the miscarriage, and we did that Bible study together, and that was huge. I feel like
so impactful. Like just like having your own like digging into like who God is and like his relationship with you,
and doing it through a time of like immense hardship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I grew so much and just really had my eyes open to like, wow, like I have been like completely living for myself in this world. And my mom is not one to shy away from having a tough conversation. And she was like, I pray for you so much. And she's like, I would have never wanted you to go through something like this, as hard of like going through a divorce was.
Right.
But she was like, ultimately, if that's what opened your eyes and helped you like stop living the way that you were, she's like, it was worth it. And like, I agree with her. Like, I would never want that.
Right.
And I'm not saying like God can use anything as a wake up call to anyone.
Yeah. God can use anything for good.
Yeah. But no, I just think that like now I just feel like I have such a better like outlook on life. Like I feel like I used to, even like just throughout my 20s was like, oh, like I'm saved. Jesus forgives sins. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to heaven.
Yeah.
And it's such a sad, like when I look back at my 20s, like don't get me wrong, I had good times. I had, you know, great people. Like I had, you know, like my family, like everything like was good as a whole.
Right.
But like I was just selfishly living for the present. Like I was not, you know how like the Bible says, like lay up treasures in heaven. And it's like I wasn't laying up many treasures in heaven during my 20s. And so I think ultimately like, my divorce was just like a huge wake up call. And now I do feel like I just have such a stronger relationship. Like I just feel like I'm more kingdom minded. Like, and even like just doing this, like if you would have probably when we first started the podcast said like, hey, we should share our testimonies, I would have been like, I mean, why? Like, what if we offend someone? Like, what if we hurt someone's feelings? Like, I would have been like, you know, like just let's not. Or not. I'm like, no, like even if one person hears this and it impacts their life and we have one more like brother or sister in Christ in heaven someday, like it would be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
But yeah.
Yes.
Crazy how like God just uses things like even how you were saying like with your miscarriage, like it's proof that if you didn't have a good God, like there are a lot of people that like miscarriages completely wreck their relationships.
I was thinking about that today when I was thinking about this podcast. I was like, how do people go through hardships, and in my case like miscarriage, or if someone like a stillbirth or like whatever, without Jesus? Like, how do you find hope or joy? We live in a sin fallen world. These things are going to happen. This was not God's design for this world, but we chose sin and we still choose sin. So like, how do people who don't have Jesus find hope? They find it in worldly things, which are never going to satisfy.
No, they don't.
It's we've both been there and tried those things. So it's like, yeah, it's just sad. And just because you're a good person does not mean you're going to go to heaven. No. That is like the resounding like thing that, and I'm sad in any culture, but I feel like in the Midwest you have so many like people who will say, well, they were a good person. Yeah. Or like, I hate going to funerals where like they weren't saved and they're like, oh, like they were great. They were salt of the earth. Like, can't wait. You know, they're better off in heaven. And it's like, did they have any fruit in their life that showed that? Like, did you? It's so heart-wrenching. God's pretty clear. Like, he's a good God, but he's a God of justice. Yeah. And like, if he tells you exactly what to do. Yeah. Like, if you are sinning, which we all are sinners, like none of us are exempt from that. And it's like, he pretty much says, like, you sin, you go to hell. Unless you are going to decide to have Jesus cover your sins. Like, unless you have a relationship with God through Jesus. Like, because you don't run into a ton of atheists in Aberdeen, South Dakota. No. Like, no. Yeah. Most people just say they're Christians. But I had this one verse that that was cute. Because it's Ephesians 2:8-9 says, for by grace are ye saved through faith, not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. And I think that just goes to like the good person thing. Like, you could be a Mother Teresa and it really doesn't matter. No. Like, that is of yourselves. Yep. It's through God alone. Yes. Through faith. But yeah, I hope that you guys liked this. Yeah, JC's definitely a better, more eloquent like speaker and better about getting her thoughts in line or whatever than I am. I just kind of gave a timeline. But I enjoyed it. We're all different storytellers in our own little ways. That just tells you extrovert, good to talking to people. Introvert, not good. Lies. Don't beat up on yourself. I think that, like I said, like if anything, it's a testament to like, because I used to think that as a kid, like, well, I was never this, you know, wretched drug dealer on the, you know, like, and God pulled me out of whatever. But it's a testament to like our parents, your parents, like, and like how you guys are gonna raise Grant. Like, he isn't like, hopefully, like someday, like he's gonna grow up in the church. He will like get saved and know that his parents were living for God, and like he didn't have to go through terrible hardship. Like, I mean, yes, we're all gonna go through hardships, right, but I pray over him every night, and just that he would be a man of God, man after God's heart, you know. But yes, I always pray for my little nephews for that. So sweet. It's good. But yes, well guys, thank you for listening. And if any of you have any questions and want to message either of us, please do. Yes. We love you. I was praying over the podcast this morning that it would just fall on good ears. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I'm not going to claim to know everything or be a preacher or whatever. I go to my pastor for that, my dad for that. So if you have any questions, actually we will forward all questions to Olivia's father. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye.